I think this is about take 34. I'm trying to show you how the internals of an LT230 work without the casings. It's a bit more difficult to set this up than you imagine. So here we've got the setup, and I made some wood here to hold these bearings in, because this is kind of important. Alright, so just ignore the wood. This is what it's like inside an LT230 without all the aluminium bits. So basically what happens is, this is your input gear down here, shaft here, and those splines at the end, sometimes, you know, they're for PTO drive. Sometimes they don't even have them on the later ones because nobody knows what a PTO is. So power comes in here, and there's a spline in here which usually wears out because there's no hole in it. But this one in particular is a very good gear, a very good spline. So we're going to put an oil feed ring on the back of here so that oil can be fed into there, so that's not a problem. So when power comes into here, it drives this gear. So we're transferring power from the spline to the gear because this is one big lump. Then it passes to another great big lump here, this bit. This is what's called the intermediate gear. It comprises of 3 gears, all of which are on the same piece of metal. There's no difference, there's no keyways, there's nothing in there. It would have been better if it was a keyway because it'd be a lot cheaper to make. Anyway, we've got low range here and we've got high range here. So we've got power coming on this gear, drives this, and power can equally be put on this gear or this gear. Now, at the moment, this is your centre differential lock, and this is in neutral. And you can see here, we've got a hub. One of these things here. I shall explain more about those in a minute. But what they do is, they allow, this hub allows the gearbox, the transfer box to be in high range, neutral or low range. This is a high range gear, this is a low range gear. The low range gears never change, they always are the same. Alright, just remember that. So all we're concerned about is these gears and these gears, because by changing these ratios we can change a lot of things. Now there's been many manifestations of these input gears over the years, 26 tooth, 24 tooth, so it has to correspond with this gear here. Alright, so you've got to get matching pairs, and it's very important to know the serial number of the box, 28D, I think it's 28D in this case, I don't know, JP's got it at the moment, but this is a 1.2 box. So like I said, power's coming down here, into this gear, which equally pushes power this way or this way. Now, this is where your centre high and low range comes in. You know that shifter lever that you never use? You can see there's some teeth on here. Let's zoom in a bit. Okay, so there's some teeth here. You can see they're very fine, and there's some very fine teeth on there, allowing this to move. But it won't quite go in until we turn this just a little bit. That's why sometimes if you're too fast and you're turning your gears, these will grind into gear. Similarly, on low range, you've got to just turn, it'll turn a little bit and then it'll go in. Alright? Now, if you want neutral, so this isn't turning, you imagine this isn't turning, but what will happen is, your input gear here will turn this, and it will turn these two, because now they're running free, but it's not locked here, this is in neutral in the middle. So that means you can use your power takeoff, if you've still got them, to drive threshers and things like that, and bandsaws and whatever, I don't know, sawmills. But we haven't got those anymore, they don't exist. They used to fit hydraulic pumps and things like that on the earlier Defenders, but again, nobody bothers with that now. So that basically is what it's like. Now, I shall show you here some of the things that we're concerned about. Inside here is a differential. This is the differential inside here. So let's, for example, say it's in low range. Alright, it's in low range. Power's coming down here, through this gear. This gear now is driving all this shaft, which is here. This is it all stripped bare. So the low range gear is turning on here, and the high range is turning on here, and that's the spline that goes on the centre of these hubs here. Alright, that's how it drives. Just by that there. The differential, I'll do an insert here of sort of how they work if you don't understand them. I've set up this differential in the vise to try and explain how this works. The only difference between the two is that this is what's called a 2-pin differential. I don't know why, because it's only got 1 pin. It's got a pin here holding a bevel gear in, and a pin, you know, the bevel gear is held in here by the same pin. But the LT230 has a differential like this, which is 4 pins, so more power can be transferred around the pins, and then they break. But the idea is, you don't always necessarily need both shafts to turn at the same speed. There must be something slightly different. And that is that if you're going, let's take this back axle for example, if you're going around the corner with this long shaft, and this is a small shaft, this one is going to go way too longer than this one. This one's going to remain almost stationary. But if they were turning both the same, this would skip all over the place. You see what I mean? It would jump. Now, by using this differential idea, we can get rid of that problem. Now, I've clamped this shaft in the vise, and I put a white paint mark on here. I put a white paint mark on there, which is now wearing off because I've done this so many times this take. And my pen's run dry. Hope you can see that. There you go. And I've also put a paint mark on there. Now, I'm going to, you know, simulate this shaft is stuck. Alright? This shaft is stuck. It's in, I don't know, stuck under a rock or something like that. I want you to look at this paint mark, and this paint mark, and this paint mark. So I'm going to try and turn this. It's really tricky because it's fell out of vise a few times. So if I turn this half a turn, you will see that this paint mark has come to the top. But where's this one? It's still here. So this is turning twice as fast as this one. And if I turn it again, it'll come back round to the same mark again. There. You see? So what it's doing is it's balancing out the power. It's putting the power down here, but this is turning twice as fast because this one can't move. I hope you understand that, because it does take you a little bit to get your mind around it. It would be easier to show you on the car with the cover off the back of the axle. But this thing here works exactly the same way, but it's a 4-pin, but it's all enclosed. Alright? So let's get back to the video. But the gears allow these two, so these allow these two input gears to turn independent of each other. Well, actually we can put it in gear and still get the same effect. Alright, so that means that when we're in when we're driving our car, we won't even know that's there, because it just turns round all the time. So this is turning all the time, but it will make some slight adjustments depending on when you're going around corners and things. If not, it will sort of wind up all the transmission. This is why you don't put the diff lock in when you're on solid surfaces. And this is the diff lock. Now this shaft here goes to your front prop shaft, and you can see there's a number of teeth on here. Let's take that out. This is your diff lock ring. You can see there's a number of teeth on there. There it is there, look. These are quite heavy to move around as an old man like myself. So what happens is, when you put that vehicle into diff lock, what you're doing in effect is moving, you're moving this ring to lock there. So it's halfway on the shaft. Here, it's half on here, and it's half on these teeth here, well, fully on these teeth here, so it just moves across. There is no neutral in diff lock. It's either in or it's out. So when power comes in through here, for example, and the diff lock's in, this overrides the centre differential. So now this is all locked in one piece. So I can't turn. I've got some backlash on there because of the teeth here. That's again, it's a clunkiness in a Land Rover gearbox. You can't get away from that. And if we want to look at that very carefully here, or closely, you can see why it knocks. So I'm holding this back one. You see? That's the knock. The knocking shop. You can't take that out, alright? That's the nature of the beast. But normally, when you're driving along, you don't have that engaged. Alright? Hopefully the diff lock, the centre diff will explain, because this is what's called a 4 pin. Even though there's only 2 pins, this is the bit it drives off, these pins here, and these are these pins inside here. And you'll see from the insert of the video how it works. It balances everything out nicely. Now, when you're wanting to do changes to your gear ratios, you'll need to change the high range, these gears here. Sorry I'm fiddling around with the camera because it's such a strange angle. You're going to change this one and this one. They usually come in matching sets, alright? And this is where it gets expensive. Because if you make a bit of a boo-boo, you're into trouble, because there are different types of hubs. These things here. There's 54 and 58 millimeter diameter hubs. This is why I've got all these either chained together like this, or chained together like this, because what you might find is this. This is going to be a bit tricky to see. On here, the hubs have got wide teeth, and on this one, the hubs have got narrow teeth. Now, this hub here is 54 millimeters. That's a 54 millimeter. Well, I think these two here, 58 millimeters. These two here, 58 millimeters when you measure them up for there. So there's the later Puma and things like this. Some TD5s used a different spline. So if you're going to buy an AATB from Ashcroft's, for example, to replace this centre unit, you've got to really strip the unit down first and measure the splines here to make sure you've got the right one, because that's a 54. Alright, that one there's 54 millimeters, but because it's an early one. So the early ones should have the broad teeth like that. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Some of the gears from Ashcroft's are only on narrow teeth, like these here. I'll have to zoom in again. Alright, so some of the teeth are narrow. You cannot mix and match them up. So if you've got narrow teeth on here and you've got the correct hub, you've got to get narrow teeth on this gear, on this low range gear as well. If you won't, you'll build all your box up and you'll try to put it in high and low range and it won't go in, because everything has to jive together. This is a bit of a problem. So what I'm saying to you, if you're going to start to build rebuild a transfer case, you never ever know what somebody else has done before, because they've always been pulled to bits. So the first things first, take this out, measure the spline here, 54 or 58, you can't go wrong with that. And then check your original hub for the size of the teeth. It can get quite expensive if you want to change to, say for example, an Ashcroft 1.3 ratio box, because they only come with fine teeth. They do not come with the coarse tooth. So just beware, because there have been quite a few guys caught up by buying the wrong AATB and finding out they won't jive together. This is why when people send me boxes, I say just let me see them first. Don't let me buy all the parts first. I have to see them and I'll tell you what parts you need. So I think that's pretty much sorted that out. What goes on inside. You know, it is really down to this piece here. Like I say, I didn't realise when I first started doing them that there was two different types of centre diffs. The centre diffs, if you sort of, how can we say, if you go off-road and you get stuck and one wheel is spinning, by the action of this differential, if this wheel's stuck and the front axle, there's one wheel spinning, it will spin so fast that these gears here will destroy the little brass rings that go on here and sometimes the hubs. And what they'll do is they'll try and expand by the nature of those teeth. They'll try and expand and they'll get out, and then they start to wear out the inside of the casing here, and then it's ruined. It's just not worth fixing. Try and find a used one. So all my diffs I have here, we strip them down, have a look and make sure that the insides of here are perfect. If not, it's another diff. And if you wanted to get an aftermarket centre diff for one of these, well, in Europe you're pretty lucky because there's loads of them kicking about from old scrap Land Rovers, but we don't have that opportunity. But I found out that an aftermarket unit like this is actually about the same price as an Ashcroft AATB. So you might as well get an AATB and be done with it. I'm not promoting Ashcroft stuff at all, but it's just a matter of sense. You might as well put something better in. But again, I can't reiterate this more. Get the right spline. Measure it up first. Can't go wrong after that. Yeah, so I think that's about what covers the interior bits.